Alright guys, welcome back. Today it's time for more legacy action. I have been playing a few different decks over the holidays, made some nice deep runs, and yeah, today's no different. This is going to be a top 4 legacy challenge run with Bant Nadu. I quite like this mid-range take on the card. So first of all, Nadu plus Nomads. That combo has a few shells. We're looking at the Elves version. You know, going wide, Allosaurus Shepherd. We're looking at Breakfast, Graveyard centric. And then we're looking at this one, which is like a normal Magic deck, in quotation marks, I guess. You know, plows, cantrips, forces. I guess you can count ending. We have a little bit of acceleration in Delighted Halfling. Also, Green Sun Zenith Toolbox, Dryad Arbor for turn 1, Burrow for grind, Endurance for graveyard. Noble for when Exalted is important. We have Sylvan Safekeeper for some protection and mini combo with Nadu. We have Springheart and Tuco to give my extra mileage to my fetches. Sometimes you go wide. Sometimes you create a lot of bodies, so you can't really fizzle with Nadu. That card is definitely on the chopping block. It's not the best. Then Bristly Bill, more mileage to the fetches, and a Zenith target that can actually, you know, get Nadu going as well. Mana base, pretty straightforward. One of each basic. I like that a lot. The blue Surveillance are in the deck. Single Savannah, 2 Thunder, 2 Drops. The Seiju in the utility slot, I guess. So yeah, this deck is not a fast combo deck, not a good control deck, but it's kind of everything in between, and it requires your opponent to not play too passive. Then you just kind of grind away with things. And if they don't respect your combo, you can just win out of nowhere. And by the way, Teferis are quite good. Bounces, random permanents, and it's yourself safety valve. Kind of like how it works in Breakfast. Sideboard, I'm addressing spell combo. I'm addressing all kinds of combo, including Chalice, Colorless, Graveyard. We have, since we're a Zenith deck, the first Collector Roof is pretty impactful. Veil of Summer against, you know, blue-black decks. Pit against any blue deck. It's the best against Delver. And then a copy of Keen-Eyed Curator for, you know, Renimator, I guess, mainly. So, yeah, this is a deck. Not too much more to say about that deck. I'll go through some highlights here, and yeah, enjoy the show. All right, this is round 1. I'm playing against MCN Sauce, who I consider to be one of the absolute best players on the platform. As you can see, we both have the same avatar here. We qualified for the same Legacy Showcase, where we actually met in the finals. I was lucky to beat MCN Sauce around 8 months ago and qualify for the Magic Online Champion Showcase. Something that is my best memory in Magic, to be honest. We played a control mirror there, but yeah, not this time. I'm on the Nadu side of things. MCN Sauce playing 5-color Yorion. Favorite deck. He's been playing it for ages. On the play here for game 3. I decide to play Nomad turn 1, get a little bit of chip damage in. Also, it's pretty good potential against the deck with a ton of tap lands to stress their mana early on. So either, you know, he lets it stick, and I can combo him out quickly, or he kills it right away, and maybe it slows him down for later. Surveil land, binning an extra fetch. I draw a second Veil, which is probably not good. Worth noting is I don't have Veil up right now, but it doesn't really interact with that deck anyway, aside from forces. So here I actually had a somewhat of a decision. I could have played land first, but I decided to play land second to get a bit greedy. I figured if I get this, then Tuco forced, probably in a decent spot. My plan is to play Nadu with backup next turn. I fetch a Surveil right away. If I pass, my opponent can respond with a plow. In a Dryad Arbor, and I actually have some creatures going here. Let's see what this is. Sauce puts Yorion in hand, and now I really like my spot, because now I feel like if I add 2 more tokens to the board and I play Nadu with backup. So you should ask yourself, why would Sauce put Yorion into hand? The answer could, of course, be no other place, right? But mainly, it's because you want a blue card or a white card. As it turns out, it is, in fact, the pitch to Force Will here, and I get to cast a sweet Veil of Summer. So either I resolve this, draw a card, or my opponent needs another force. So very good scenarios all in all. All the while I'm getting in for chip damage. Something that I think about right about this time is I've put probably too many islands on the battlefield, because I remember that Sauce is a Carpet of Flowers deck. Looks like I got away with it. Okay, little cheeky end step dress down here. That's fine. And then killed a Nadu, so pretty good play there. Despite missing a land drop, Sauce is always playing at a high level. So here's Teferi. Yep, plus that card. I like that play. You play Halfling, and then I attack for 5. So the reason why I play Halfling, even though I'm playing against sweepers, is any damage might matter here, is my mindset. And here's Carpet for the kind of punish. Let's see what Sauce can do on the second main. Remember, I do have a Teferi in play here, which is quite awesome. Let's see what this is. Burrow, that's pretty good. So I can make one more 1/1. Oh, Pyroblast to Teferi, that's pretty cool. And another Carpet. That doesn't do a whole lot. Okay. So I fetch before my turn. I cycle the Veil. I really like that play, because at this point, my opponent's not going to force me anymore, so I might as well cycle. I get rewarded with this Keen-Eyed Curator. Play the Curator. I eat the Uro. At this point, I think I'm trying to think about Murktide Regent. Let's look at the opponent's graveyard. 1 Ending, 1 Force, 2 Blast, and a Brainstorm. So right now, my opponent can make it into an 8/8. I feel like what I should do here is make sure that the Curator is trading with the Murktide in combat, and I think I should be fine. But I end up eating 1 card. My opponent doesn't have anything aside from mana sources, or at least something that doesn't deal with all of these creatures. So I'm kind of lucky to run over control with my 1/1 plan here. Very happy with that. My opponent did a good job dealing with my broken aspect, but this deck, can just get the job done the old-fashioned way, and that's exactly what I did round 1. All right, guys, quick message here. If you want to have access to my deck guides, my strategy articles, whether you want to pitch me a sweet deck to play on the channel, whether you want to look into coaching, or simply just want to say thank you for the content I put out, please check out my Patreon below and become a Baron today. Now, let's get back to the games. All right, this is round 2. I'm playing against Blue-Red Storm, which is kind of a weird one. I brought in my Deafening Silence. I saw the One Ring, so I brought in Oof. Same with Consign, can counter Storm Trigger, can counter the One Ring. I want to Ponder out of my opponent. My opponent's not scared of Wasteland. They shouldn't be. So here, they could have pondered. Let me see. What did I think here? I was thinking about weird cards like Needle, Defense Grid, stuff like that. I think I end up going for a Surveil Land here. Put a Zenith to the yard. And I draw Deafening Silence, which is quite awesome. My opponent forces Pitch Daze, which is actually scary. Maybe Daze was a reason that I passed there with mana, but then again, this deck is not that fast. Tough to say. It didn't end up working pretty nicely for me because, oh, here's Needle. That's also kind of funny. So Needle names Nomads and Core, so no combo. Let's see what I do here. Okay, I play a Halfling. I like that play. Opponent with the Surveil Land. At this point, my opponent's plan is either Ring or the 6 mana that makes 4/4 prowess, guys. Here comes Bristly Bill. I believe I put a counter on Halfling to simply get the clock going. Cast a Ponder. Shuffle, draw Consign. Get in for 2. Here comes the Elemental Eruption, rather. I draw Force, which is incredible. Now I can Teferi the token. And here I believe I make a mistake. I should, well, should I? Now maybe this is actually good. I'm playing around, big spell plus Daze. But no, Daze doesn't work. Yeah, this is a mistake. I should have played Oof here. Also, another reason that it's fine is that, sure, it's nice to consign a One Ring, but One Ring is just drawing one card before getting shut down by Oof, so I could have had another creature in play here. I forced to will my opponent's Storm card, and my opponent concedes here. Left with 2 cards in hand, you know, getting hit down to 3. And yeah, I was just pretty lucky to draw my sideboard cards here. Well, at least, you know, draw the Deafening Silence with a couple of forces, then rain a beatdown, gets the job done. So yeah, nice 2-0 start. Let's keep up the winning. All right, round 3, I'm up against Eldrazi. This is game 1, so I don't know until this point of the game. My hand is decent here. Good land spell ratio. I have a couple of forces. So here I decide to force pitching Ponder. My main decision here is whether I should pitch the Ponder or the Force. If I pitch the Ponder, I let myself draw another blue card to have, you know, more disruption, which I generally like, especially against a player who either mulliganed or, you know, stacked a pedal or whatever. But if I don't draw a blue card, then I have to pitch the Nadu. I'm lucky and I do draw a blue card, so pretty nice for me here. Opponent passing the turn with 4 mana means a couple of things. No Thought Knot, no Fleshraker, no Chalice of the Void, so Kozilek's Command, stuff like that, probably. I'm going to put a Prismatic Ending in the yard here. Draw Brainstorm, which I cast. My main objective here is to find a Nomad, to develop it, and win on the following turn. That does not happen, so I can get rid of land Halfling. Then I can shuffle once more to Ponder. Right now I'm just on the lookout. So, yeah, I ended up shuffling those cards, I believe. But it had Uro and stuff like that. Uro to Fairy. At this point, I'm thinking pretty aggressively for Nomad. It's unclear. I clicked too fast there to get a better look at it, but it looks like I'm very aggressive. And I don't know about that. Let's see. What do we have here? So right now I'm fearing the worst, but if I remember correctly, yeah, exactly. My opponent starts untapping here. Then I realize it's Kozilek's Command, and I'm actually not that worried. I believe I force pitch Force. So now I can develop a Nadu. Bad draw with the land. Play a bird, pass the turn, and then I get Thought Knot Seared. So pretty lucky for me. Cradle is just a forest. Draw Halfling. I have another Surveil in my deck, so that's the plan with the Heath here. Opponent is some mana off, activating Ivogin. At this point, I think my opponent's last card is a land as well. Could be a second Ivogin. Anything else would have been cast. I take the 4 here, I believe. I surveil a Brainstorm to the top. I believe I find a Zenith here. Let's see. Let's see if Magic Online wants to cooperate. What happens here? Yeah, I do find a Zenith, so this way I can go Zenith X2 and then trigger Nadu twice. I now have an Uro, and there's another Zenith in hand I can get in for 6. So I'm pretty firmly winning the race here, and here's the concession. Game 2 was not all that interesting, so that puts me at 3-0. Couldn't go any better. Let's keep it up. All right, wrong 4. I'm on the draw here against True Hero, Italian Grinder. Unknown matchup, though. Keep my hand, basically because Nadu is a pretty good card. Obviously, having 5 lands is not amazing. Turns out I'm up against Delver, turn 1 Channeler. So here, I could have played a bit differently going for basics, but I actually decide that if I get wasted, I'm totally fine because I have a lot of lands. So that plan is, you know, it's decent in theory. The thing is, if my opponent gets Delirium and I'm getting attacked for 3, then Wastelands become Time Walks. So the plan is not perfect. I keep this Ponder. I prefer, or rather, I'm totally fine going into Zenith with the objective to get Lighted Halfling. Opponent ponders and develops second Channeler. Only 2 types, though. Here comes the Zenith. I believe my opponent forces here very aggressive play. They get to Delirium, which makes it all worth it. Gets in for 6. I'm now at 11. Here's Nadu. Opponent is trying to seek the beast in response. They hit a daze. No daze. Here's Petty Theft. I believe this deck plays a single Brazen Borrower, so obviously not that happy here. So now it's crunch time, and I'm at 5 life, and I think I should just go for Teferi here. Opponent is brainstorming in response. I'm kind of holding my breath here. I expect this to resolve, and we'll be left with 2 cards. I bounce a Channeler. I draw into a Force of Will. That Force of Will makes it so that I don't die to a Lightning Bolt, which is quite nice. So I'm now at 2 life. My opponent attacks me. Here's the fetch. 4th Volcanic. Here's Channeler. And here's a Bolt targeting me with 2 Surveil triggers. I'm lucky I can force. So on my turn, I could have pondered, but I decided to hold up a mana, and I'm not really sure why. I think it was a straight up mistake, because there's no way my opponent attacks my Teferi and then I need to force a will. Well, then it's double Lightning Bolt, but I'm dead to double Lightning Bolt anyway. The point of the story is this Force of Will is protected by Teferi. That's why I should have pondered. If I had plus Teferi, I could ponder on end step thanks to instant speed, but I can't here. So I end up kind of losing a mana. And then I kind of, quote unquote, have to brainstorm. You find the Nomad, though. That means we're off to the races. So I haven't played a land yet. Set up the basic land to hit. Start activating. Note this Endurance can clear the opponent's graveyard and give me 2 triggers. I decide to go for Giant Arbor first. Drawing a ton of cards here. The end game here is for me to have untapped white mana and hold up Plow. Here I'm clearing my opponent's graveyard, targeting it twice before it dies to evoke. My end game is still untapped white mana, which is only the 1 planes. I run out of activations here, so I go again on my opponent's upkeep. Pretty lucky to hit the planes there, which should put me out of reach. I plus Teferi, so that means I have access to instant speed. Prismatic Ending. And at this point, I think the game is just straight up over. Excuse me. Here's Brazen Borrower. Here's the instant speed ending. Here's the instant speed ponder. And here's the Green Sun Zenith to kind of cement this game. Yep, the opponent's seen enough. So that was also, funnily enough, the best game of this series. I end up taking the match down in 3 games to push me at 4-0, looking very, very good for top 8. So, no, wait, maybe, let's see. Yep, that is true. I'm now 4-0. So yeah, sitting pretty. All right, round 5. I'm playing against a Japanese Sensei on Delver. Looks like a mulligan. This looks like a keep. I end up keeping 3 lands here. One ponder is always what you want to see. That means you have a bit more wiggle room. Here I'm trying to go Zenith for Dryad Arbor. My opponent says no. Usually dazing on the Zenith is followed up by a Wasteland, but not this time. My opponent found a threat and already has Delirium, so that's super scary. Here comes Gristly Bill. A 2-2 that'll get killed a lot of the time. Chandler gets in for 3, and already the clock is ticking. So here, I'm kind of overthinking the situation a little bit, because if my opponent had a bolt, I think 9 out of 10 times they fire it off. At this point, I'm thinking that this Volcanic represents Aeroblast. I decide to go Brainstorm Fetch instead, but not fetching, you know, right away. I don't want to get blown out. So now I believe I'm going to let my opponent resolve this one, and then I'm going to grow the Bristly Bill. Oh, right. Okay, this is a good play. So I kill that one first. Then I grow my Bristly Bill. I go for a Plains here to circumvent Price of Progress, which I saw at game 2. Here's Murktide. So Murktide is not the end of the world. Well, what a nice draw. I just drew... I was about to say it's not the end of the world because I have to Fairy, except, you know, Force of Will. So here, Force of Will. So my opponent pitches Brainstorm. In this spot, it's a tough decision for my opponent whether to exile the Brainstorm or exile a copy of Days. I would say it's very, very tempting to pitch Days if you have Days in this spot, but you know, I'm not in a spot to do anything aside from this one. And my opponent played it like a Sensei and had the Days, decided to pitch the Brainstorm, so well played. That means the Fairy does not resolve, and I cannot attack despite having a 6/6. Here's Murktide Regent. Draw Nomad like an absolute champ. They play Nadu. Nadu dies to Pyroblast. Murktide kills me, and that puts me at 4-1. That means I have everything to play for in the last round. Let's see if we can do it. All right, I'm up a game. Round 6, I'm playing against Renimator. I have a Fairy Macabre in my opener, so I'm going to be fine with the Dryad Arbor. Opponent's on Emerald 6. Turn 1 Ponder, could be anything. I draw a Halfling. I'm happy to play that card out. It dies to Fatal Push, whatever. It actually does, and I get wasted. So I develop a Nomad. Opponent surveils a card to the top, and Fatal Push that one. So very slow game here. Cast a Ponder. I see some decent cards here. I like the Brainstorm. I like the Zenith. Let's see what I do. I'm drawing the Brainstorm. I guess if I get Thought Seized, I would rather have the Zenith available. I guess that's the logic. Right now, I'm pretty happy with the Fairy Macabre, but I also know that card can get killed by Thought Seize. Let's see how I proceed here. I should have some options. Playing a land out, passing the turn. I guess I'm respecting Bowmasters a little bit here. Let's see, Barrogoyf. Pretty happy to see that card since I have a Swords. I kill that, then a Brainstorm, get rid of the Dryad Arbor that's been in my hand for ages. Hanging on to the Force in case I draw a blue card. I even have, you know, option to filter a little bit with the Archive. I find another Force, which pairs with that Force of Will. Now the plan is Zenith for Nadu with Force backup. Meaning I'm ready to force a Force, and I still have the Macabre for the opponent's graveyard. It's a Daze, which is unfortunate, but I think it's worth fighting over. Now I have a Nadu in play. Opponent replays. Okay, this says a lot. Opponent replays the Surveil land, well played with Daze. Spins a Cameo. So maybe the opponent is feeling the pressure here. Because if my opponent draws Cameo next turn, that's a draw that did not, you know, stop me from comboing off. So at this point, I feel like my opponent is playing this as the control deck, which is something I talk about a lot when I talk about this deck. I think when people are too scared, they lose to this deck. And if they're too reckless, they also lose to this deck. So that's a big reason this deck is pretty strong. I believe I'm too scared of Bowmasters here, and since I'm winning, I can kind of afford to slow play this Brainstorm a little bit. My opponent taps any mana, I'll just fire off the Brainstorm. Here's Cycle, Troll of Khazad-dûm, play Underground Sea, pass the turn. So that leads me to believe that was a draw for the turn, and my opponent is building for either Hardcast Force or more, you know, Trolls, Metamorphoses, stuff like that. Veil is an amazing draw because it's good against Force, it's good against Fatal Push, it's good against Thoughtseize. That was an amazing draw. But now the problem is that whenever I find a Nomad, the game's just over. So I think I get to, yep, draw the card and not... Yeah, this is brutal. So my opponent wastelands me, that's fine. Then Fatal Push is turned on. I draw a card from Nadu. Then I Veil of Summer this push. Oh, that's so sick. My opponent has Force Pitch as the last 2 cards. I cast another Veil. I draw into Nomad and Zenith. Yeah, this is crazy. This is just crazy. I got very lucky here. So this clutches top 8. Clinches top 8 rather. And yeah, wow. I had this Fairy Macabre all along. Got to fire off some good Veils. Nadu was doing fine in this game even before Nomad showed up. It's like when you target Nadu and you lose the counter war, that's just brutal. It's like a Leovold. I call it the Leovold mode on Nadu. And then from there, it's just a matter of time until you find, Nomad to finish the game. So yeah, 5-1. Looking super sick. Very confident going into top 8. Let's see what happens in the quarters. Okay, it's quarterfinals time. I'm currently up 1-0 against Eldrazi. This hand seems fine, although very weak to Chalice of the Void. Don't do it. Yeah, this is a Chalice of the Void. All right, well, then we have to get a bit lucky, and there's the Force Negation just in time. So my opponent with no follow-up. That's probably very good for me. So I probably fetch a blue-white Surveil here. Kind of Force of Will. Do you like that card? I do. Okay. So right now, I'm basically identifying that my opponent's going to end step Kozilek's command here, and then I can replicate my consign so I can play this land fast enough. Let's see. My opponent bites here. That's kind of my way to win this game, even with, double Ancient Tomb in play. I could see there being some merit there. Countering 3 spells. My opponent has super low life total. That's kind of the dream here. So yeah, replicate once to get around Chalice. My opponent plays Eldrazi Temple Pass. So funnily enough, this looks like another Kozilek's command. I do have that covered, but I would be way more happy if I can play my 3rd land and pass the turn first. So I drop a Seiju. That's amazing against a Chalice later. So everything is kind of my 3 draws. Force, Beseiju. Can't really complain about those. Let's see if there's another command here, end of turn. Yeah. This is so good for me. I believe my opponent had 10 here. I negate the Kozilek's command. Here comes Uncounterable. So of course that's, not the best. Thought-Knot Seer takes the plow. So now, kill the Chalice. My opponent searches no basic. It's kind of lucky for me. I would guess most decks has basics at that point. Anyway, I get to resolve a Ponder. My opponent can keep me off green here. Still have Force plus blue card. But I now have a dead halfling in hand and the clock is ticking. Opponent with no plays. What does that tell me? Dismember. Uncastable once upon a time. So, speaking of, I draw Brainstorm. I decide to put back, believe I put back Nadu so that, sure, I can play the fetch. I don't want to develop and, put the Nomad at danger. So, waiting here to at least, let's say my opponent has, I don't know, 2 removal spells. Then at the very least, I get to trigger a lot of times. No reason to expose it. Oh, Blast Zone. Okay, Blast Zone for 1 is actually kind of cool here. So now I have to play Nadu first, then play Nomad, then start activating. My opponent will go to 4. I respond, of course. So I draw into some forces and a land. A couple of lands. And now my opponent can get in for 4, and then the opponent is probably in trouble here. Let me be honest. The Fleshraker is annoying, but there's no way for that card to take me from 6 down to 0. Here comes the Green Sun Zenith. I believe I go for a Bristly Bill here. And then I get a single trigger, and I believe my opponent concedes here. Yeah, my opponent concedes here. I don't think my opponent should have conceded here. I could easily, you know, brick here on the one Nadu trigger and a brainstorm. I mean, at least let me play it out here, but pretty sick recovery here from Chalice, Double Wasteland. I was lucky to catch 2 Kozilek's commands. The first one with Consign, the opponent could have avoided. The second one, they could have soaked a blue card out of my hand. So a little bit of learnings when it comes to the timing of those cards. When you're not playing against a Daze deck, you should just, you know, play to the best of your ability with a Chalice for 1 in play. Don't let me play the second land so I can replicate through. That's just kind of asking for trouble. So I got lucky that my opponent didn't play this perfectly, but the opponent also told me they had a little Christmas drink, and it was, I believe, the first time playing the deck. That's how I remember the conversation. So, you know, stuff like that happens. It just goes to show why practice is important, right? So I can't complain. That means I'm off to the semis. All right, semifinals time. This is game 3 against Jeskai Control. Not the deck I expected to see here, but that's pretty cool. I love me some Control. Land Ponder. Let's see, what did I do here? Okay, shuffle. Draw greens on Zenith. Probably not a very good draw, but let's see. I sideboarded out some, you know, some dorks. Sideboarded out the Beseju, because I added Carpet of Flowers, which is kind of a mana source, so. Here's turn 1 Tameo, which is very annoying. I draw Carpet, which is, you know, kind of like a land, so I can go to my second main phase, and I can cast a Brainstorm. I believe I go Savannah, search up Dryad Arbor. And now I'm kind of doing fine in the mana department, and I have, you know, back-to-back-to-back stuff that must be dealt with, so I'm trying to set myself up here. Let's see. Prismatic Ending on the Carpet would be disastrous. Can't do anything about it, but I kind of had to hedge with my Zenith play. Opponent develops a Plains, which is kind of good. I decide to go to Fairy first. Opponent draws a card. Opponent forces with force, so actually, I like that quite a bit. It's decent for me, right? Get in for 1. Pass the turn. Don't want to expose the Nomad. I figure that if I didn't get end it last turn on the Carpet, it's also going to survive this turn. Opponent cracks a Clue, then ponders to flip the Tameo. So now the clock is kind of on. Put a Halfling into the graveyard. There's a Ponder, so I'm definitely just looking for a Veil here. I decide to shuffle. And I'll play Nomad, then play Nadu. The reason why I do it this way around, and this may be a bad logic, is if I play Nadu first, and it resolves, then I play Nomad, and it gets countered, then I'm left with 2 Nadus and nothing to do. But maybe that's bad logic. Maybe my opponent will always counter the Nadu. But anyway, my opponent... now there's some crucial stuff going on. My opponent kills the Nomad with Prismatic Ending, which either means they didn't care about this, or just drew it. Who knows? And they ticked up Tameo. So if my opponent was super scared, they would just tick down Tameo. They tick up Tameo. Then decide to Brainstorm. That's kind of interesting. The opponent should probably have sequenced the other way around, because the cards on the Brainstorm can change your plan. But I have this bad Source of Plowshares in hand that I basically only have in the deck in order to kill Unflip Tameo. And now it's kind of like a dead draw. Plus side is I get some mana with Carpet here. Let's see what I can ponder into. So right now I have how much mana? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana, which means it's too late for Uro. With the way I sideboarded, yes, I have the Bristly Bill, but I don't have any lands. But I sideboarded out the Sylvan Safekeeper because my opponent's on mass removal. So I have to shuffle these, right? these cards are not getting the job done against the Tamiyo, so I feel good about that. Draw another Nadu. I play a Nadu. It resolves. I don't attack because it's, you know, 0 power attacker. So no Red Blast, no Force, but Supreme Verdict. If I decide to plow my own Dryad Arbor here to get an Nadu trigger, desperate times. I find a Misty Rainforest, which can surveil, so I could still get there. Zenith is too late, I believe. Yep, Zenith is too late. And I draw another Zenith, and that's going to be it. I lose to the Tamiyo, drawing half of the opponent's deck, which is 20 cards. And yeah, there goes my run. So what can we learn from this game? There's some point where, I don't know, maybe the opponent just had this card all along and just waited for the exact moment. Tamiyo being in a clock on its own, that's pretty sick. Yeah, maybe I just didn't have a chance this game. Maybe I could have played a little better. The double force was brutal. I had Teferi, Nadu, even drew more copies. But since my opponent could stop me and, you know, ride the Tamiyo, I just got destroyed. I only had one prismatic ending in my deck. I think I had, yeah, one ending, 2 plows in my deck. So the ending is fine, but the plows are just so bad because when they have Tamiyo, you don't have plow. It's good for them. The other way around, also good for them. This case for me is trade 1 for 1. So definitely, basically in control is scary to play against. I'll say that, but I had a good run. I am very happy with the top 4 finish. I think I got to showcase a lot of strengths of the deck, a little bit of the weaknesses as well. Some of the thought processes that goes into when am I a mid-range deck? When am I a combo deck? When am I a control deck? When am I even a freaking tempo deck that's trying to win with 1/1s against control, smelling blood in the water? And yeah, this run kind of had it all. And yeah, that's what I like to see when I play Magic. Decks that, you know, have very many layers to it where you get to utilize, let's say, go off the beaten path, not find the exceptions to the rule, all of that stuff that I enjoy about Magic. So yeah, this was a cool run. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I already have a guide for this on my Patreon, so check it out if you're in the market for some Nadu action in the new metagame. And if not, totally fine. I hope you guys have a awesome New Year's, and I'll see you guys in 2025. Thanks for watching.